Hello and welcome to today's lesson. In just a little bit, we'll be transferring ourselves over to where we can use a highish piece of furniture, like maybe a table or a chest of drawers or something, so be prepared for the transfer. You will definitely need a brick today, and we're going to start off with Vajrasana. So obviously for those who need extra support between the bottom and the heels, or maybe there's some kind of problem with the knees, so you might want to place a sock or something like that in the crook of the knee, then please just feel free. If you don't need anything though, then we can just stay in Vajrasana, plain and simple, and we'll put one hand on the belly like so, and the other hand on the solar plexus, to really just stimulate this feeling of descent on the one hand with the weight of the body and the rebound that comes from the floor and is channeled into your spine. So in a certain sense, these two parts move away from one another and create length. So just feel that, squeezing the thighs to give yourself a really good base for the spine. Do a nice sigh just to let that descent of the weight come and to feel the rise of, as I've said before, the spine. And then we're going to do the same thing, but this time we will tuck our toes under like so. I like to just come back a little bit to make sure all 5 toes of each foot are down. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So by having that presence on those 2 points in the abdomen area, I can still feel the weight coming down into my feet, and yet at the same time the rise of my torso. Now this is quite strong on the feet, so if at any point you need to come out, just come out. This is worthwhile doing. It really activates the foot. And the feet, of course, are enormously important, not only for supporting us generally, but for buffering the blows that come through walking and running. And that buffer is essential in order to protect the knees, the hips, and obviously the spine. So this is a great way for exercising and making flexible the feet. And then we can just come back into the normal Vajrasana. And still being very aware of what your torso is doing. Stimulating both the height of the spine, but also the width of the back. And with the breath that you can feel just under your hands, you can also feel that third dimension. And one more time, we go onto the toes like so. Feel the little toes coming down as well. And you feel an enormous extension on the underside of the foot. This really encourages the arches to develop. Again, this idea of sighing and releasing the weight down is really, really helpful. If it's very painful, and for some of us this is quite painful, just be careful not to bring the tension into your shoulders. Like the weight, the arms and the shoulders need to descend. So maybe instead of putting your hands on the 2 points of the torso, you could think of just throwing your arms down like so. Keep on squeezing your thighs together. It's really important to create that base. And then you can come into Vajrasana again. Now, if for any reason you need to come out and stretch your legs, then just simply, without too much fuss, do this. And then we're going to come back to Vajrasana and grab a brick. And we will put the brick like so. I call this position 3 because this is position 2 and position 1 like so. So position 3 of the brick there. And again, observing this weight really entering into the feet, squeezing the thighs together. We're going to start to walk our hands forward. Now, I don't want to go down completely. I want to aim with the breath, with the exhalation more than anything else, to come and place my chin onto the brick like so. And when you're in position, just keep on observing the thighs squeezing together. Also feel the entry of the femur really snugly fitting in to the hips. And enjoy the stretch that you'll probably feel emerging in the lower back. Every now and then, again, sigh out just to release. Above all, to release the back from the hips. And then you can walk back with your hands and supporting yourself with your fingertips. You can start to push yourself up and come back into Vajrasana. Spend a moment there. If you need to come out and stretch your legs again, please do. And then one more time, exhale and come forward. Maybe you want to come forward in stages, so do a couple of exhalations, that's absolutely fine. Keep on squeezing the thighs together. Remember, this creates a base for the back, for the torso. And then when your chin is down, observe the legs and feet disappearing into the hips. Observe the solar plexus, the area just below the sternum, moving forward towards the brick, towards the chin. And the lower abdomen moving in towards the spine. Now it's at that point I want you to really start to think about now. So that lower abdomen, I'd like you to actually literally suck it in a little bit more strongly in towards your spine now, i.e. up towards the ceiling. And as you do that, I'd like you to squeeze your thighs a little bit more, because from there I would like you to look towards your hands and just lift your hands a couple of centimeters off the ground. And that is work that comes from that lower abdomen. So don't let up the work in the lower abdomen. This is quite strong. Your solar plexus is still moving towards the chin. You're still squeezing your thighs together. Now, come down with your hands, the fingertips of your hands, without letting the work up in your lower abdomen. When your fingers are down, you can then re-rest your chin on the brick and relax your abdomen a little bit. And then you can bring your hands close towards you, push away the ground and just come up. Now we'll do that one more time, but hopefully you have felt the importance of this drawing in of that lower abdomen towards the spine. There's a lot of work that's done there, particularly with that hinge action that we are exploring. So let's try it one more time. So coming forward, resting your chin on the brick, squeeze your thighs. The thighs, the femurs are coming in towards the hips. The solar plexus moves forwards toward the brick. The lower abdomen now is sucked in. And then you can look up a little bit, lift your chin off the brick, looking towards the hands. And then as you keep on sucking that lower abdomen towards the spine, you can lift off a little bit your hands. Maybe you can put your hands, the palms of your hands looking towards one another here. Keep the lower abdomen working really strongly and accompany that movement by the squeezing of the thighs towards one another. Okay, and then you can just bring your fingertips down. When they're down, you can exhale. Lower your chin towards the brick. Spend a moment in this more relaxing Vajrasana number 2. Bring your hands under your shoulders, push away the floor, and you can start to come up again. So I've now gone over to my chest of drawers, so please find the equivalent. It could be a table, a piano or something. And we are going to get our hands chopping like this, the sides of the hands pushing into the piece of furniture, and we will walk back until our heels are in line with our hips. Our legs are slightly bent with the knees straight in line with your ankles. The idea is that there are two directions happening. On the one hand, you've got your hips that are moving behind you, and on the other hand, you've got your solar plexus that's moving in front of you. So it's kind of two directionality of your torso. So really feel that. If that's hard to feel, you could look just gently towards your hands. And as you do so, just envisage that somebody is gently pulling your pelvis back behind. And breathe. You have to really weighten the hands into the piece of furniture you're using. It's essentially a support. And this support allows for the elongation of the arms and the opening up of your armpits. So stay there and breathe. And every exhalation, just visualize your pelvis moving back behind you as your solar plexus moves towards your hands. The lower abdomen continues moving towards the spine, so don't let it drop. Again, here you want a gentle sucking up action of that lower abdomen. And then when you're tired, you can just simply walk towards that piece of furniture and have a break. And then we could do this a second time, but this time we could use the elbows on the piece of furniture with the brick in between the palms of the hands. So we're going to squeeze the brick. We will not hold it. We squeeze it. That activates the shoulders better. And again, we move back, same setup. So knees gently bent in line with your ankles, heels under your hips. And then we have this two directionality of your torso. So the pelvis moves behind as the solar plexus moves in front. Now with the brick here, it's going to be slightly more intense in the shoulders. The elbows are really pushing down into the furniture here. So you'll be feeling the chest opening up strongly, and also the armpits really starting to elongate and open up. Now, if you want to feel that feeling a little more intensely, you can actually press down more strongly with the elbows and bend more the legs. And as you bend the legs more, really feel the pelvis moving behind you as the solar plexus moves in the opposite direction. Now, from there, observe your torso. Don't change the torso. And start to slowly straighten your legs. Now, if the torso starts to change, and by that I mean essentially rising towards the ceiling, stop and just leave your legs bent. If this is not a problem, you can start to straighten your legs until they are completely straight. This idea of straightening the legs, I like to think of it in terms of the legs straightening in towards my hips. So by straightening the legs, I'm essentially absorbing more than anything else the whole length of my leg into my hips. And this aids toward compacting further my hips, which, as we know, should be supportive at all times and stable in terms of the spine. And then you can come out. So for those of you who have flexible hamstrings, who've got a good stretch in the back of your leg, you can actually start to lower the surface of where your hands are. You could even use some kind of chair, starting off higher, always starting with your bent legs to then straighten, or maybe you can come down further, walk back a bit. The two directionality of the torso remains constant, so pelvis back, solar plexus forward. I've even got a bar here. I can start to use my hands on that. It hurts a little bit, the sides of my hands, so I might just simply hold it to the side. You can even have 2 bricks that are just supporting your hands. The important thing, again, as I say, is this 2-directionality of the torso that should always be present. Now, to further this exercise, I'm just going to come up and use the base of the chair like so, keeping my legs slightly bent. And I want to do what we did a moment ago in Vajrasana. So, still thinking of my pelvis going back, my solar plexus going forward, I am going to suck in my lower abdomen, and at the same time I'm going to really try and bring my feet and my legs into my hips. And then from there, I'm going to lift my hands about 1 centimetre only off the chair. And you can really feel there's an enormous amount of work being done in the feet, in the legs. The legs are really being sucked up strongly into the hips. The lower abdomen is really strong as well. And then when I come down, I don't lose the work until my hands are resting back on the chair. And then I can relax that work a little bit in the hips and the feet and the legs. So this kind of Ardha uttanasana, so it's the half forward fold. This is quite relaxing by comparison to the work we did just a moment ago. So let's try it again. Sucking in the lower abdomen, so making that whole region really strong. The feet and the legs disappear into the hips, and that makes the hips really nice and compact. And then when you're ready, still thinking of the 2-directionality of your torso, you can lift your hands 1 centimetre off the chair, looking gently towards your hands. Feel how compact the hips now are. Before, when we were in Vajrasana, we were squeezing the thighs together. It's a little bit that idea even now. Have a feel, you see what I mean. And then you can bring the hands back down onto the chair and relax the work that was going on in the hips and the lower abdomen. Sigh out. Let go. And then they say 3 is a lucky number, so let's just do it one more time. When you're ready, abdomen, feet, legs. Squeeze the thighs to a certain extent towards one another, although they're never going to touch. And when you're ready, looking towards your hands, just lift your hands ever so slightly off the surface you find yourself in. And then you can come down with your hands, and you could even come and do a full uttanasana. I would advise slightly bent legs, particularly for those of us who have difficulty in this position. You can take hold of your arms if you want, the elbows, and then with a wonderful sigh, just let go. So we're going to take that work we've just done, that strengthening of the hips, the compactness of the hips, that sucking in of the feet and the legs into the hips, the strength in the abdomen. And we're going to shove that all in to Virabhadrasana number 3. So when we're using our height, we want to make sure that we've returned back to what we were before when we were parallel with the ground. So we don't want to go any lower like so. Hands as before, feet as before. So remember, knees are in line with the ankles, hips over your heels. So just start off as before. And then what we're going to do is leaving the right leg where it is and transferring a little bit of weight over to the hips without cascading the hips and making the hips uneven. At all times we want to have both hips in line. So imagine you've got a tray full of drinks. You can't let those drinks spill over. So with that idea, we're going to lift off our left leg and just bring it up like so. Both legs bent. Lower abdomen is still in. Feel how it's working. Feel how the right foot is sucking into the hip. So feel that this is essentially the same action as before. You're still pressing really strongly with the side of your hands down into your support. And then when you come down, don't come down with a clump, with a thump. Try and come down lightly, which means that you work until you're on the ground again. Spend a moment. And then we do the other side. So we have to get our weight onto the left foot now, without in any way disrupting the evenness of the hips. The lower abdomen comes in and supports us. We really feel both feet, to be honest, sucking in towards the hips. And also don't forget the pelvis is moving back as your solar plexus is moving forward, guaranteeing this wonderful extension and elongation of the torso. And then when we come down, we do so lightly. And then for a break, you can just come in and do an uttanasana. If you're using a chair like me, you can even just bring your head down and rest it lightly, like so. If this is too much, you can just simply put your bottom on the wall. Your feet parallel will be about 40-50 centimeters away from the wall, and you can just do a forward bend with your hips heavily supported by the wall behind it. And then we'll do the same thing again. So get back the chopping action of the hands. Make sure the alignment between your feet, your ankles, your knees, and your hips is correct. Make sure that the hips feel as though they're endlessly going behind you, whereas the solar plexus is endlessly going in front of you. And then when you're ready, really feeling that the two hips are even, lift your left leg. Only this time, we're going to try and extend that left leg back behind. So the right leg remains bent. The left leg remains really, really strong. The left foot active. The lower abdomen being sucked in. And your breathing is normal. And then you can just come down. And if you're doing this properly, you're going to feel an awful lot of work in the outer hip. Let's do the other side. A gentle bend of both legs to begin with. Lower abdomen now sucking in as we transfer our weight over to the left foot. We bring the right foot back. The right leg is strong and straight. Separate the toes of the right foot. Observe what's happening in the hips. The hips should be square. Breathing nice and even. And then you can just come back and relax as previously. Now, if that's going well, what you can start to do is straighten the lower leg. So let's try it. If it is too much work on those outer hips, then just keep on doing this Virabhadrasana 3, this modified Virabhadrasana 3 with bent legs, but always making sure that the feet are active. The foot together with the hip are in constant communication. So as soon as the foot does nothing, the hip loses its activity. So the leg can be bent, that's not a problem, but the foot needs to be active at all times. Let's go. So when you're ready, suck in that lower abdomen, lift the left foot off the ground a little bit, putting all the weight onto your hands and onto your right foot. And then you can start to extend the left leg back. So the left leg is currently straight, the right leg isn't. I feel my pelvis going behind towards my left foot as my solar plexus moves towards my hands. And then what I can start to do is suck my right foot into my leg, which in turn is sucked into my right hip. Now, speaking of which, the hips should still be balancing that tray with drinks that I talked about. So all so often, the left hip will come up quite significantly here. So if anything, it's the left hip that needs to come down. And then you can just bring your leg down. Sigh out a couple of times between one side and the other. And then bend both legs again. Bring the right leg back. Let's see if we can try and get the right foot in line with the right hip. Remember, solar plexus moves towards your hands. And then, if you feel like it, you can start to suck the left foot into the left hip. And then mentally observe what's going on in both hips. The buttocks should be in alignment. Lower abdomen is still supporting the work. So the lower abdomen is being sucked in towards the spine as per normal. And then you can just come down. So a lot of today's lesson has been about strengthening these kind of core abdominal muscles. So I now want to just relax on the ground and maybe think about melting onto the ground and opening our hips. Lying down. Enjoy this moment. And then what I would like is for you to lift your right leg off the ground. Activate immediately your right foot. And then place the outer right ankle onto the left knee and allow your right knee to come out to the side. So you should still be feeling a certain evenness of the hips on the ground. This goes back to this idea of balancing the tray on the hips. It's really important, this symmetry of the hips in virtually all yoga positions and possibly all the exercises as well. If your hips aren't even, then your legs certainly aren't, and unfortunately nor is your spine. That's the thinking behind it. And then on the next exhalation, you're going to lift your left knee towards your chest. So obviously that's going to bring your left foot off the ground and activate the left foot as well. So you've got both feet that are really reactive. Separate the toes. The base of the big toe is pushing gently away as the base of the little toe moves towards the body. Taking your hands, you can just simply interlace the fingers behind the left knee. And then bring your head down towards the ground. Make sure as much of the scapula, the shoulder blades are down. If this is a problem, then put a brick or a cushion under the head. But you will need to be working towards releasing the whole of that mid to upper spine down towards the ground so you can truly benefit from the openness of the chest here. So the lower abdomen moves in heavily, and the mid to upper spine just gets ironed by the floor itself, thanks in part to the opening of the shoulders and, in one sense, the dropping of the outer shoulders down towards the ground. And then exhale and bring your left foot to the ground, and then the right foot. Just have a break. Have a sigh. Feel the effects of the work that's just happened in that outer right hip. It's quite strong what's going on there. And then the other side, so placing your outer left ankle onto the knee, allowing the left knee to move to the side. Immediately activate strongly that left foot. That left foot protects the left knee, so at no time in this exercise should you let up the work in that foot. I would argue in both feet, but it's a lot of work. So at the very least, try and get that left foot protecting at all times that left knee. And then on the next exhalation, you can bring the right foot off the ground and you can capture under the right knee with your hands. And then just bring your back, your shoulder blades towards the ground and activate both feet. So even here, there is this idea of the feet and legs disappearing into the hips. It's as if we're wanting to constantly shorten our legs to get back to the center, our essence. Every now and then use a wonderful exhalation to feel even more presence of your spine on the ground. And then you can bring the feet back onto the ground. Have your feet hips width apart. You can leave your knees touching one another. And place your hands on your lower belly. And spend the next minute or so resting and absorbing the effects of today's practice.